Hello. Today we're going to work on drawing some heads, learning the structure and the anatomy of how the human head is built, and trying to get a really full, but at the same time as simple as possible, understanding of how it looks and the proportions and how everything functions in the head. My goal with today's video is to really break things down as simply as possible. You can really go as in-depth as you would like. I mean, you could take university courses breaking down things like the head and other anatomical parts as in-depth as you possibly want to go. But our goal with that, at least for today, isn't to go too in-depth. It's to go just as in-depth as we need to, while also keeping things as simple as possible. So I hope this video is useful for definitely new artists, but even the intermediate range as well. You don't need to learn everything right off the bat all at once. You just need to have a very solid foundation to stand on. And also, part of why I wanted to do this video was I do see this trend from a lot of videos of artists showing people allegedly how to draw things, but they do little, nifty little cool tricks that look cool in a video and they get attention and likes, but they really don't explain how what they're drawing works, how it functions, what's going on, in this case, underneath the skin. And if your goal is to teach people, to help them to have an understanding of those things, doing cool TikTok versions of tricks is not going to get them anywhere. So today I wanted to do something that, again, like I said, is simple, but also helps you have that understanding as well. It's not flashy, but it's not meant to be. These are just fundamental things for people who are serious about learning to draw. In this case, the human head, for portraiture or whatever your goals are. So we're going to dive right into it. So when thinking about the human head, you want to think about it. In fact, this goes for all drawing, all art really. You want to start out as simply as possible. You want to break things down into the simplest shapes you can. In this case, a circle. Now, the human skull is more like, let's say, an egg shape like that. But we're not going to jump to the full ovular egg shape right off the bat. We're going to build from the simplest shape, the bottom up. So you would want to start out with your circle. This is going to represent the base of the skull, the portion that does not have the jaw attached. We'll add the jaw on in just a second. So when starting out your circle, keep in mind, obviously, this is not a perfect circle by any means. I'm going to change this just real quick, excuse me. It's not a perfect circle by any means, but we don't necessarily need it to be either. Don't strive for, don't expect, let's say, perfection right off the bat. You're not going to get it, and you don't need it at first. In this case, what we're looking for is for our height of our circle to be the same as the width of that circle. So those two things need to match. So if you're doing this on paper at home, you're following along, you can break out a ruler, technically speaking, especially if you're new to this. It is good to build up very strong habits that are sound and anatomically correct and all those things. So if you feel the need, you can actually break out a ruler and do so. The general rule of thumb, though, keep the circle the same height as the same width. The edges and stuff, the inaccuracies, like you can see right here, totally fine. Totally fine. That looks like a lump of dough, so that's okay. So we've got our circle. Let's go ahead and draw a middle line right through it. So that's going to represent the two halves of our face. We need to add in our lower jaw. Now, and this will become especially apparent, I'll do this in another video, of when we cut off the sides of the circle, lower my eraser real quick. Excuse me. So say this is the base of our skull. We're going to add in our jaw. You would want to cut off the side of your head right there. So that's going to represent the flatness on the side of your head, and your ear will attach somewhere right in there. And then you attach the lower jaw underneath that. So we don't need to do that today. We're going to keep it just front-facing view. Whoops. But I want you to understand where the lower jaw is going to be inserted. So it's going to be inserted on the sides. The jaw is not going to be the same width as the circle. It's going to be slightly in. And I will try to give a few measurements. I don't want to throw too many things out at once. But I do want to give you, as much info as we can handle here. So it's going to be on the sides right here. You would cut off roughly that section of the circle when starting out. So somewhere in right about there. Now, the jaw, the bottom of the jaw will measure roughly half the height of your circle. So this length right here down, right about there. That would be where the bottom of your jaw should reach. So if you would like to draw a little boxy outline, you can do so, and you would just fit your jaw inside that box right there, just like that. Let me clean this up just a little bit here. So already we've added just a handful of lines, and we're already starting to see the structure of that come out. Now I'm drawing male head right now, so you'll notice my jaw that I added. The jawline is very sharp. It is very distinct, quite angular. Again, it's not perfect. We don't need it to be perfect right now, so let's not get hung up on that. You can always go back, especially towards the end, and tidy things up, make them look especially pretty looking. But right now, your main focus should just be getting your proportions correct. So we've got our jaw put in. We've got our middle line of our head put in as well. You can go ahead at this stage, attach your ears. Again, they come up to about the halfway point on this circle. That's roughly where the tips of the ears go, maybe slightly higher. So I'm going to add those in right here. And I'm doing just the simple kind of an oval shape with a flat base on the side right there to represent my ear. Again, not too concerned with drawing the perfect outline of the ear, just a simple enough shape that gets the information across that I need. That way I can go back later and make it look more like an actual ear. So I'm going to shave down the sides of the head real quick, just a little bit, and come in, tidy that up. Okay, so now we can go ahead and we want to mark where our eye line, the bottom of our nose, and where our mouth will be placed. So real quick, looking at your middle line right here, the face, this would be the top of the head because that would sort of represent the back. So this is the top of the forehead, and then you have the bottom of the chin. Roughly halfway in the middle of this line, right about here. There we go. This is where you'll place your eye line. Now your eye line is going to cut through the middle of the eyeballs. So you don't want to set the top of your eyes touching the bottom of the eye line. You don't want to do that. And you don't want to set the bottom of your eyes touching the top of the eye line. Don't want that either. What you want is the middle of the eyes being cut off by that line. Just like that. And if you're a little bit iffy on where to place the eyes, of course they go on the eye line, but how far in do they go? Generally speaking, eyes should be about one eye width apart. And for me, that's going to be close enough right now. We're good with that. It's a good representation. So that's your eye line. Now, next, you need to measure down where you're going to place your nose. And it's a simple enough rule. It's the half rule, whatever term you want to give it. I teach my students different names sometimes. Probably a little confusing. If you go halfway down again, though, so halfway from this time, instead of the top of the forehead, you go to the eye line. Measure from that eye line down to the chin halfway, right around here. That will be the bottom of your nose. Again, bottom nose where your the cleft of your lip starts to touch that part of your nose. That's what we're looking at here. We're not looking at the tip right there of the nose. We're not looking at that. We are looking at the bottom right there. So that's what we're looking for. So you got your bottom of your nose. At this stage, if you would like, you can demark like the width and where the bridge of the nose would be. Absolutely up to you if you want to do that or not. I'm gonna go ahead and leave that here for now, just to kind of have a nice little marker. I like when I have the underlying structure of whatever I'm drawing to kind of sit there for a little bit before I go in with the final details and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this now. That was the bottom of our circle. Don't need that right now. So you got the bottom of your nose. Once more, you're going to measure halfway down once more, this time from the bottom of the nose to the chin. So, and please note, I'm guesstimating a little bit. Totally fine. Don't go breaking out rulers. You don't need to be 100% specific. You need to be close enough, and I say close enough because in real life, almost no one's face is going to measure exactly 100% to these proportions. These are just very solid average guidelines that most people's faces fall within. But you can start to play with those rules as you become more experienced. You just have to learn the rules before you can break them. So we've got our mouth line in there right now. So let's zoom in just a little bit. So ideally, taking all the distractions out of the way, it's slanted. You have your line, middle line of your face, halfway through that line, eye line, halfway to the bottom on the nose, halfway to the bottom again from the nose, mouth line. So that's what we should be looking at. Now, at this stage, if you'd like, you can go ahead and clean things up a little bit, get rid of the extra lines that you don't need. One thing I forgot to mention, I'm drawing digitally just so I can show you quicker and more easily what I'm drawing in real time. There will be demonstrations where I'm working on paper to show maybe shading techniques and things of that nature. But for now, I'm working digitally. But if you are working traditionally with pencil and paper, make sure you're drawing very lightly. If you have a hard time drawing lightly and you go to erase at the ending stage of your drawing and you're still seeing, the outlines of things that you drew earlier. If you're having a really hard time with that, you're not alone. It can be a very difficult thing to really train yourself to do. I have made it a little bit easier on myself by using a 4H pencil. It's a light pencil. It does not show up on paper as well as, say, an HB pencil, or if you hear moving in the background, that's my dog. I apologize. It's not as dark as a HB pencil, or the even softer and softer. You can go all the way up to, I believe, like a 12B pencil. So if you're looking for a darker pencil for shading down the road, I tend to use, if I'm doing a more fine arts traditional style piece, I might use like a 4B pencil, a 6B at the most. It's just a quick note there. If you're having a hard time drawing lightly, go ahead and use 4H. 1 second here. So here we are. We've got our basic structure of our head placed in. Go ahead and maybe put a couple eyebrows in real quick. Now the brow line will be roughly the height of the ears. Again, it's just another little measurement for you to go by if you need to. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to go ahead and go in. Let's see. Let's get a pen. I think a pen might work best here. Let's make it a little bit smaller. It should work. Awesome. So we'll go in and tidy some things up. So if you're drawing with a pencil at this stage, this should be, again, pretty light. I'm letting it show up darker because here we are digitally. I'm going to go over with pen now, and I'm going to give a little bit of detail to the structures we have. We have a nice structure of a head, not detailed at all, as you can see. Totally fine, but this is a great base to then work off of. what we're practicing here is proportions and how the different features, say the eyes or the ears, relate to each other. What distance apart are they? Where are they placed on the head? We're way more concerned with things like that right now than we are, hairstyles or style of the nose even. So let's go in. I'm going to, for my own sake of looking at this thing, I'm going to go ahead and do something with these eyebrows. I usually leave an outline such as this. I usually leave it like this for quite a while in my drawings. I tend to do, I'm a comic artist, so that's typically my style. I work with very hard-edged lines, but you do want to add, down the road texture to, say, the eyebrows or something like that. You wouldn't want to leave them just lines like this. But for now, that's fine. I just want it as a bit of a placeholder. Okay, so we've got our nose. I want to help us shape this a little bit. So I always like to start with the bottom. I'm going to jump into adding a little bit of undershadow here. Maybe too much. Might lower my pen, in fact. I'm going to jump into adding somewhat of a undershadow to the nose right off the bat. It just shows, now we're implying already that we know where our light source is by darkening that part of the nose and the nostrils and whatnot, but usually they're covered in shadow anyway, so we're not too worried about it. So we have a nice base. I'm going to hide this real quick so you can see. For our nose, we have the outer structure. We still haven't erased it yet. We don't need to, but we have the eyebrows and nose placed in right there, and that works just fine for right now. Back to this. So bridge in the nose. With males, you can do quite a strong, pronounced bridge like that. You can have the more kind of broken look. You can have the more straight-edged look. It's really up to you. You definitely want to study what people's noses look like, or eyes, or any features for that matter. But you want to study those things because they come in all different shapes and sizes. I mean, you have some people's noses who maybe are a little bit more pointy like that. You might have the terrible nostril. You might have the more button type right there like that. Or you could have the hard, super angular nose, the sort of, I don't know, if I'm doing a comic book, I'm going to think that nose might belong to a villain or at least a very strong person. So there's so much character you can add to the drawings you have with, little things like that. How you draw the nose is just one simple way to do that. Okay, so we have the outline of our nose put in. I'm going to go ahead and touch on the mouth real quick. So I always like to start at the cleft of the lip right there. So what we're looking at is roughly the middle of the mouth, maybe slightly lower, but it's enough to work with for building our mouth. And I like to jump from the bottom of the nose here down to the cleft, and I build my lips off that, because if you notice the angles, I'm going to draw some lips over here quick. The angles of your lips right there are in line with that cleft. So we want to go ahead, I like to use the cleft as a little bit of a measuring point just to kind of help keep myself in track. So we've got our cleft. And I gotta make sure they match. Whoops. All right. So we have the top of our lips put in. Nice base. Now, you can do, again, 1,001 variations. I'm doing a little bit more of like a thinner lip, at least the upper part version for the male here. You can do so many varieties, though. You wouldn't think necessarily that something as simple as lips would come in all different shapes and sizes, but they really do. And again, they can add a ton of character. So, bottom of the lip, I want to save that for just a second. I like to keep in order, so I will go top, middle, bottom in that order. I typically work in the same order. Rarely do I ever jump around in the order of things. So however you do the order of your drawings, whatever steps you use, largely, setting up your skull, your head should be the same. But beyond that, you might start with the mouth first, or the eyes first, or the ears first, or the hair. Really, at that point, once you've learned the basics, that's really up to you. So I'm just going to indicate that the middle of the mouth is right there, and I'm going to go ahead and put in the bottom of our lip. Okay, so now we have another little element to add some structure to things. Go ahead and look at it real quick. All right, so yeah, we can see that the features are lining up nicely. We have something to work with here. Keep drawing on the thing. All right, so we have a nice head built. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna mark the hairline and make notes on just a couple other things. We're not gonna do a fully detailed and finished drawing. I really just wanted to break down this, like I said, the structure of particularly the front-facing face. I will do videos on drawing the head at different angles and how to understand that. That is a separate lesson, because once you start to add those angles that you see people in, it does bring out a lot more dimension in the head, and there's a bit of perspective and whatnot. So that is a separate lesson in and of itself. So I'm gonna save that for another time. I could spend all day. I could go in, I could detail the eyes and break down how the structure of the eye works and whatnot. But we don't want to do that today. I will save that again, because that is such a nuanced thing to learn that we don't want to rush that. So just marking things. A tip on the hairline is, again, study. I'm big believer in really studying and not just using reference as a thing to copy, because you won't really learn anything from that. You could pick up a few things, but really good, intense focus study. Pick something you're wanting to learn about, and do things one at a time. Today, or this week, rather, maybe this month, I'm really going to buckle down and learn how to do hair. And it's important to know where you're at. If you're still trying to get the proportions of the head down correctly, maybe you should focus on that first. You work from the basics up. If your foundation is weak, it's going to affect everything downstream that you do. So definitely start with your foundational, structural parts of your drawings. Get those down first. But beyond that, pick, when you're getting down to more just general features like eyes and hair and things of that nature, set aside a block of time in your calendar to focus specifically on those things and studying from real life as well as photos. How people's hair looks, what are the sort of rules it follows. I've never seen someone with the hairline go down that low, right? You don't see that ever. That would be very strange, very odd. There's maybe a couple people out there with that, but we're drawing, again, general type people here. So with the hairline, I start off, I'm going to go ahead and clear out some space. We are on the wrong layer, people. I start out, I like to erase what isn't needed at this point. We're gonna clean up as we go. Lightly add in, I know I'm using a pen here, but let's say I'll just give this guy a pretty standard hairline. And then once you've built the hairline in, then you can sort of imply what the hairstyle looks like. We know that there's the top of the head, so we don't want to make our hair, unless it's, say, a buzz cut, we don't want to make our hair stop at that line. We want to extend it out, add some volume to it. What we definitely don't want to do is to stop our hair below that circle. That wouldn't make any sense. You're saying that is the top of someone's skull, and that is clearly incorrect. We would not like that. That would not be good for our human here. So I'm going to get rid of the top of the skull. I know where it's at. If you'd like to erase this after you put the outline of your hair, if that helps you to see things better, that's totally fine. But now we're going to jump in. And again, I'm probably going to just give, for the sake of time in this video, I don't like that, a pretty standard haircut. Like so. I still don't like that though. Good Lord. What's wrong with me today? Something like that would work just fine. Hair, again, another entire video that we could sit down and spend and go in really in depth on. Really, you do want to focus though on a very simple outline. Hair is complicated. When people, especially beginners, are first starting out, they may try to do all the details of the hair. They might add all in the feathering and whatnot, and they haven't even had a good structure of hair put in first. You really want to get nice, let's use a woman's hair. It's a little more to see. You want to get nice outlines going. You know, you want to see the top of where the hair stops, right? You want to see the edges of where it falls and where it stops. You don't want to start off by drawing, highlights of hair, or rather the darker values of hair, when you don't even have the structure of your hair put in. You want to think of the hair as a piece of, say, cloth that sits on top of the skull, and focus less on the individual strands, because we're really creating illusions with art. We're not drawing things exactly as they are. We could never recreate the thing in and of itself. So you're not going to draw every strand of hair. A simple outline, even as semi-ugly as this is totally fine. You can always go back and, let's say, fix this. I want to add a little bit more detail. It's that slow progression where you add more detail over time. Again, like I said at the beginning of the video, we're not going to get perfection right off the bat. We're not going to, you want to grow, and you want your lines to be cleaner and more precise as you put them down. You want to have as much control as you can get so you can make the lines you want to make. But when you're outlining things, you're trying to capture the general idea and the energy of that thing first, before you worry about those more particular details. Okay, so this is the structure of the head. I want this to be a companion piece. I do have an Etsy page where I have a printout, digital download. I break down, like I did here, in depth, with writing as well as illustrated diagrams. For the male and female head, I go into a little bit more information on the differences between those two things. I have your measurements that we used here. I just wanted to create a little bit of a step-by-step process, just live, if you will, visually, of what it looks like. And hope this to be a companion piece. So I will include a link to my Etsy shop, which I am still currently building. I'm going to keep adding a ton more tutorials over time, as well as making more companion videos. So in the meantime, feel free, go ahead and check that out. Download it. It's only $1. You can use that to keep with you as a bit of a help with your practice, your daily practice. And this video is a great, like I said, piece to go along with it. I believe I want to break down more angles of the head and drawing the head in different viewpoints next. But also, please go ahead, comment. Definitely like this video, but comment. Let me know what you're struggling with. If I missed anything in the video that you need a little bit more explanation on, and what you would like to see moving forward. It will help me know what I need to focus on in doing these quick little tutorials here. We'll go definitely into depth on things like facial features, so I will show you how to break down the eye and its anatomical structure and how it works, and a better way to understand it instead of just, drawing an almond and, calling it a day. We want to really understand things and how they work here. So In short, please like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you need to learn, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you.